Hi, I want to share a few perspectives I got from a movie I watched um, not so recently called Lifeboat. I really enjoyed that movie. Lifeboat is a 1944 film directed by Alfred Hitchcock based on the novel of the same name by John Steinbeck and stars Tallulah Bankhead, Hume Cronyn, John Hodiak, William Bendix, and Canada Lee as Joe the Porter. The entire film takes place in a lifeboat. Its passengers are stranded in the North Atlantic Ocean after their ship and a German U-boat exchange torpedoes and both sink to the bottom of the ocean. The plot of the film focuses on the divisions of the members of the boat and how those divisions are magnified under stress. Here are my perspectives of this film. Divisions, stereotypes. At 55, about 55 minutes and 25 seconds into the DVD, Joe is stereotyped, Joe being the black porter, is stereotyped as a thief in order to frisk Willie's pockets while he is asleep. Now, Willie in this film is a Russian who they suspect of being a spy. Throughout the film, the entire film, Connie, who's played by Tallulah Bankhead, uses the prefix "some of my best friends are," which of course is a phrase associated with historically associated with racist implications. Another division in this film that is brought out is class. At about 26 minutes and 40 seconds into the film, Rit, who is the shipbuilder, assumes command of the boat by privilege, even though he knows nothing about sea navigation. And Rit, you gotta understand, is the millionaire. He's the person who is the upper class, so automatically he just assumes by default that he's going to assume command of this tiny boat. And even though he knows nothing about sea navigation at all, just strictly privilege. No one on the boat feels worthy of taking command of the boat at this particular time, even though all of them are equal since they have no compass and they have nothing else besides themselves. Now, this very curious detail in this particular scene of Joe. I'm glad that Hitchcock did this in the film because it was really honest. Joe, the black porter, is not in this particular discussion about who's going to assume command of the boat at all. Sparks, one of the members of the boat, recommends Kovac, who happens to be played by John Hodiak. Great performance. But Connie, played by Tallulah Bankhead, is against this idea of a quote-unquote oil man being the captain because, oil man is like at the bottom strata of society, And Connie, and another thing that highlights class in this film is Connie referring to Joe the black man as charcoal. And throughout the movie, Connie's favorite phrases are "why some of my best friends are." She says that a lot throughout this movie. I don't want to go through all of the instances or examples of class in this film. Just the most important examples. That, like for instance, at an hour and 19 minutes on the DVD, Rit and Kovac play a game of poker to pass the time. But their contest represents labor versus management. In this scene where they're playing poker, the dynamics are reversed, where Rit, who happens to be the shipbuilder and the millionaire, he's now playing the role of the underclass, and Kovac, who was a member of the underclass, being a oilman or a person who's in charge of maintaining the ship, he's now playing the upper class, and he's winning at this poker game over and over. And Rit, he feels like the deck is stacked against him because Hodiak seems to like win every hand that they play. you know, and she even makes the comment to Kovac's character, because she's like looking at them playing cards, and she happens to make the comment, "Looks like you stepped out of your class this time," and she's saying this to Kovac. Kovac in the meantime is like looking at his hand, and he's looking at four deuces. And when you play poker, four deuces can beat everything except for a straight flush and a ace high royal flush. So he has he has that particular hand right there, but the wind blows and knocks the cards out of his hand, and now he's upset and pissed off because he feels like I had the winning hand, but it seems like you just happened to get this lucky break. So that was another example of class. Also, another form of division, of class division, is ethnicity. And an example of this is when Gus who happens to be one of the oarmen on the ship that got sunk. His original surname is Schmidt. You got to remember this movie was made around the time that America was at war with Germany. So he changed his name because he was ashamed of being a German. And another thing is, another perspective that I got from this movie is loss. Like everybody in the boat loses something that they love the most. And here's a few examples. Miss Higley loses her child in her own life when she jumps overboard. Another example is right at the beginning of the film. Connie loses her camera, then her typewriter, silk stockings, fur coat, and later she loses her luggage. The businessman, C.J. Rittenhouse, loses the poker game he was involved in on the boat that got sunk. On the lifeboat, he loses 6 boxes of cigars. He loses the winning hand in a poker game with Kovac when a strong wind blows the cards out of his hand. And another example is, again, Gus changing his name from Schmidt to Smith. And he also loses his right leg to gangrene. And then he loses his promiscuous girlfriend because she liked to dance, which he never had anyway. But those were the things that he lost. Another perspective I got out of the film was spiritual disconnection. Everybody in the boat is seeking his or her own idea of happiness, a happiness defined by things. All of these lives are like Willie, the German enemy, ruined them towards eventual ruin. This disconnection from spiritual happiness or God is also illustrated by Rick's inability to recite the 23rd Psalm. But Joe, remember the black porter Joe, his connection with God is evident when he takes up the prayer from Rick and recites it with ease. Another metaphor for spiritual disconnection and unhappiness is the broken compass, which is the way, or the way to God, and happiness. Also, everyone in the boat puts all of their trust and faith in people and things. At an hour and 24 minutes into the film, Rick laments, when we killed the German, we killed our motor. But Joe, the black man, counters this by saying, no, we still got a motor. And he points up to the sky, meaning God, indicating God. So in the addition to loss, the film's other themes are man's disconnection from God and attachment to things outside of God. Another perspective I got was man defining himself by things. Rit, the oil man, defines himself by his wealth. That's the man by the name of C.J. Rittenhouse, who happens to be the millionaire. He defines himself by his wealth. Kovac, the oilman, the guy who, maintained that ship before it sunk, he defines himself by the tattoos on his body. Gus Smith defines himself by his dancing ability. Connie defines herself by her typewriter, her camera, her fur coat, but most of all, she defines herself by her diamond bracelet. Will defines himself by his strength and superior intelligence. Miss Higley defines herself by her baby. Here's another perspective I got of this film. Man's faith in things. Red has faith in his money. Connie faith in her diamond bracelet or her ability to seduce men. Will, the German, has faith in his strength and intelligence. Gus has faith in his legs and dancing ability. Having no compass, everybody puts their faith in Willie's ability to get the boat to Bermuda. The compass represents the right way or God's way. The material things everyone on the boat depends on represents the wrong way or the enemy, who is Willie, the German, who is also the metaphor for Satan. The broken compass at the beginning of the film represents man losing his connection with God. Joe, who is the only black person on this boat, is the only one connected to God and the only person who puts all his faith in God. Another perspective I got, true happiness. Of all the people in the lifeboat, Joe is the only person who is married, has a family, and seems to live a moral, decent life. He has very little financially working as the ship's porter, but he seems happy and content. By contrast, the others on the boat seem unhappy and are involved in dysfunctional relationships without love or real happiness. Here's the women. Miss Mackenzie is in an affair with a married man in London. Connie's self-worth is tied to her diamond bracelet, which is a metaphor for her ability to seduce men. She marries men for money, and as soon as she sees a better man or opportunity to advance herself by, she dumps the one she's with. Miss Higley is the exception because she has a baby, something real that she can love. When the child drowns, Miss Higley jumps overboard herself. Here's the men. Sparks, a merchant ship radio operator, lives under the constant threat of being torpedoed by German U-boats. Gus is in a relationship with a promiscuous woman named Rosie who loves to go out and dance. He's afraid that she won't want him after he loses his right leg to gangrene, and he has good reason to feel this way because of her past and the fact that Kovac knew her before when she dated another guy whom she maintains contact with. Kovac wears the names of all the women that left him tattooed on his body. One of these names is bigger than the others and stands out, most likely the one that broke his heart. This is why he hates Connie's bracelet, because he knows that some man who loved her gave it to her and she dumped him the same way that his ex dumped him. These are just a few perspectives that I got from watching Lifeboat, and I really appreciate you watching this video. I would appreciate if you would like the video, and if you would like to read more film-related essays, I have left a link in the description that will take you to my blog, my movie blog, that is. And thanks, and I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.